Okay. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. YesExeek here to bring you some live supporting the second I can figure out exactly where I am streaming to and provide the link to some people. Um, hmm. Hmm. Yeah, can't exactly figure that out. I haven't streamed on YouTube for quite a long time. I usually stream on Twitch these days because YouTube just didn't work out for me very well. Um, yeah, that brings me to my current live stream, which I am live, of course. Now, where do I actually get the link to the share? There we go. There we go. Then I just open up Chitubox, then I just close up Chitubox, then I make it just big enough that I can still see the chat. And it's going to get real complicated once I have to go through the validator. Okay. So if you saw any of the video before, you know exactly what I'm doing and where. It's a really interesting model to support, actually, for a lot of reasons. One is that I'm going to need some heavy supports for all this hair, but they can't be on the tip. I'm going to need like ultralight supports for the tip of the hair, but I guess I'll worry about that when I actually get to the hair, because for now I have a lot of like just this type of thing to do. Lots of medium or heavy supports to add to the bottom. Let's see. I think I've pretty much got the feet there. There might be some stuff that comes out in the validator like that. But for now, I think I'm going to keep it as is. That will actually print, but I'm going to throw a light support on there anyways. Then I'm going to drag it out to this support and bring it down and drag. Oh my god, why is the oh, because I've positioned this so strangely. I was wondering why my camera was so wonky. Unfortunately, you can't change the center angle on Chitubox. You can't change the focal point, or else it'd be much easier to navigate once you learned how to. The focal point is always dead center, so definitely don't want that. So instead, let's add one support here. That'll kind of help out with that area, even though it's well supported already. Have another one of those. And then let's actually get a medium support up in there. My medium supports aren't too much different from the smalls, but they do have different penetration and slightly different diameters. I really don't want this to go through the edge there. So I'm actually going to turn the contact depth down, and that actually allows you to place your supports much more accurately. And I don't like how close this is to the model, so it's getting moved back a tiny bit. I think I got the feet there already. So I was saying in the weight support video, this is an interesting model to support because a lot of it supports itself. It is a straight up and down model. Like all this here, most of it will print quite easily. So all I really have to do is add a couple of like nice supports here on the butt. Then I'm actually going to pull the supports back and down. The reason I'm doing this is to just give them some distance from the actual model itself. Make sure that I don't have anything bonding to the model. And then I can use these support pillars to start adding just some, in the spaces with the least amount of detail possible, just some random long supports, again, just to hold this thing up. Yeah. I forgot to set myself up so I'm actually listening to some music. Oh wait, maybe I have set myself up so I can listen to music. Let me check. Normally my microphone records everything going on my computer, but I think I might have changed it the other night so that it just records my voice and I can listen to whatever I want. Okay. This is audio input capture 2, which is, you guys get to see some of the inner workings here. Yeah, just doing the high definition audio, which is only capturing my voice, is mixed down to mono, so I'm not just playing out through one ear. So that's kind of cool. Which means I can press play on this and you guys won't hear a thing. Okay. So unless I get some chatters in, I'm going to be pretty quiet about this. This is going to be mostly just like a chill, slightly instructional, you know, hangout session. Now that is actually an island. Do I really want a heavy there? And what is going on with my heavies? One of the issues I have with Chitubox a lot is that it changes my settings at random. Okay, I didn't like that. So go back to add before you change settings back. In all honesty, this should still be enough to hold it back, especially since the weight is going to be pressing down on them. But contact depth should be 0.4, upper diameter should be 0.3. Lower diameter, yes. Connection length, yes. Okay. Let's get a couple of slightly bigger supports into her knees now that I've corrected the supports a bit. Yeah, one of the most annoying parts of Chitubox is that it seems to occasionally just change your settings around. I really want this to be a bit lower down. In all honesty, I was going to say these supports could use some supports, but they have a lot of lattice going on, so they should actually be fine. If I'm not mistaken, this should print. It's not actually an island, it's just a very slight overhang. A lot of very slight overhangs in this. I might be proven wrong by the validator, but so far it seems like I'm going to be mostly doing very light supports and just supporting its weight. So I guess it's time to get going on the hair already? That doesn't seem right. But I think it is. Okay. So for some reason Chitubox thinks I should really put a support here. I kind of agree with it. This right there is an island, and it is also a good place to put a heavy support. Let's erase that thing. Pull this back a bit, make sure it's not binding to anything. Maybe even pull it down a bit. Then let's get a couple of small supports going off of there. I can't zoom anymore. This model is too large. It won't let me zoom in enough. There's a bit of a solution for that. Let's it'll screw up the camera a bit, but let's pull this model to the front right away. Like I said, the focal point is always at the back, but that should allow me to actually zoom more. And you see there's these 3 very sharp fingers. Let's actually create a new support pillar in order to get those. Now this is where my weight tutorial is going to come into play again. It has once again changed my middle angle and my contact depth and my upper diameter. Lovely. Middle angle I always set to 5 because it makes my style of supporting much easier. So let's put second support in there. I have some stream anxiety right now, which is weird because I haven't had stream anxiety in a long time. So these 3 light supports are going to print the tips of the fingers. We're going to want a bit more than just the tips of the fingers printed, so I'm going to put an all-out heavy support here. Then I'm going to pull it down and adjust it so that it doesn't ruin the model. Always be adjusting your supports to make sure that they don't actually leave any scarring. So bring that down a bit. Penetration doesn't matter that much because you're penetrating a solid model, so the model's going to support itself. But I'm going to need 2 more medium supports. How are these fingers touching? It's very hard to tell, and this is a very tall model. Either way, bring that there. You see it's going straight through, so take it down. Take that there. Now it's going straight through, so bring it down. Because you don't want any penetration on those, you just want them to be supporting those fingers. Now those fingers are supported from 2 separate angles. I'm fairly confident that they're going to print. Again, let's think about weight. I'll print up that whole hand. Let's start a series of light supports on this hair right now. I'm going to need another... Yeah. Hard part is I can't really zoom on this and I can't really blow up the screen since I'm streaming. So 1 support there. It has once again changed my support diameter and a bunch of other settings for that matter. Oh my. Of course, when I'm streaming, things go a bit more wrong than usual. It's going to be very hard to make all these supports come together. But I'm going to try my best to actually do that. I'm going to erase that little strut. So when it's stopping, that means it's actually passing through the model at some point. So I don't want to progress any further from there. But then I've supported all these hairs, well, except I haven't supported this one at all, really. At the tip, and with very, very little penetration. Let's make sure all 3 of them are actually at the tip. And again, with very little penetration. You actually don't have to worry as much because you are at the tip entirely. And then let's go ahead and add some heavy supports, because these things have to carry a lot of weight. All these first supports are just for stabilization and to get the supports going. I don't want to ruin this with heavy supports. So let's pull that out and then figure out where else I actually need to support. Get a second point going on, brace it so that it's supported in 2 directions. Say support a lot when I do these videos, I can't help but notice. Yeah, I wish it just had like infinite zoom and it didn't do this weird zoom thing that it's doing. Yeah, so that actually needs to be a bit lower and then it will build up from there. And in all honesty, I could probably use one right here. Again, leaving the supports in places that aren't going to leave any scarring. This is a very, very interesting model to try to get all in one piece. Because I'm going to keep on putting heavy supports on these parts, which aren't going to have any visible scars from them. But it is going to add a lot of weight and a lot of stability to the hair. Oh my god, I can barely navigate because this model's too tall. Can't help but notice I completely missed 2 strands of hair that were slightly higher up because I couldn't see them with my bad eyes. I do this on a big screen TV just so I can get a bit better vision on it. Okay, that's right at the tip of that. Yes. So then let's add another one and throw it over here. Excellent. Now I can't help but notice it changed a bunch of things right there. I'll deal with that a bit later. It is still at the at least correct contact diameter. No, it's not. Okay, add support. Contact diameter 0.2, upper diameter 0.3. I generally have this at 0.8 for people. Connection length 2.4. Middle, yes. Okay. So the interesting thing about these hairs is that they then join up with the rest of the already more supported hair strands, for lack of a better word. So I don't really need to put too much work into them, but I will put a couple of heavies. You might notice I'm not really working too hard on making sure the supports are all together. That's because this is an incredibly hard thing to support, and I don't feel like putting all that extra work in right now. So, well, that's not going to work. Actually, let's go with a medium support there since I have a bit of room to work with. Doesn't matter if it has some depth to it. I don't like the amount of scarring I'd get on that. So let's bring the contact depth down to 0.10, and then let's just throw that right there. Perfect. Okay. I can see why they separated the pieces on this, especially with this Chitubox zoom function that's going on. So this is going to require two supports. It's going to require one light, one heavy. Again, my heavies are pretty small. They can just fit in there quite nicely. Now these look like islands. These are very, well, they might be islands actually. Let's throw a light in there and see if it actually prints to the, or goes to the ground. No, it doesn't. But that looks a bit like an island, so I'm going to go ahead and support it like it is one. It shouldn't leave a scar. Now I'm going to need to very, very carefully here throw some heavy supports in underneath this hair. So let's move to heavy again. That's not an island. This is an island. Oh, I hate the new Chitubox movement pattern here. Now, I often will tell people not to really listen to the red area that Chitubox marks out, but sometimes it has a bit of a point, and I think this is one of those times. So I'm going to go ahead and actually support some of these red areas down here. I'm going to have to really count on the file validator for this one because I literally just can't see well enough. And I just have to hope that I'm not getting any of these too close, that they'll bond. So interesting thing, you see here this large space that's kind of like, there's the island, but it keeps on extending if I pull it out. That means that a lot of weight is going to come off that point, or it's a large island. So it's often good to anchor those islands at 2 points, generally inside of the island area, because it will stop that from failing on you. Let's get a few heavy supports up here. Now let's get 2 heavy supports up here because I can't see properly. And this is an island, and I should have used this support first. That's an island. This is an island. This model is more gigantic than I had originally anticipated. Now, interestingly enough, these horns will probably just print. I know Chitubox says they have some issues, but I don't think they do. Well, actually, they overhang slightly. Let's get a couple of... Yeah, you can see the islands on there. Now, these are very, very tall supports, so they're going to need some bracing just on their own. Fortunately, they actually give me a fairly good view of the rest of the model, so I can do things like get some heavy supports in on this hair in here, which I'm actually going to move this in to do because I don't like the angle from way out there. Again, always be thinking about weight and physics as you support, and you'll have yourself a much better time than if you weren't doing that. Let's get one more heavy support going on up over there, because I don't trust that back. get a couple more of these going, because there are some islands over there. I'm not entirely convinced that is an island, but it is kind of difficult with the angles in this print. So let's go ahead and like double support these. I was really hoping that there would be some connections in between those. There's some connections in between those. Okay, my music has started going weird, so I'm gonna have to restart it. You know, while I'm at it, let's oh, okay. Control Z. Everybody's best friend. Let's add a support that supports the supports that are supported, because why not? Usually my method is much more intuitive than this. I just am having to mess it up a lot for the purposes of this model. Okay. Then I can use a couple more of the supports down there to kind of get some of this area that Chitubox seems to think is going to be difficult. Again, I don't always listen to Chitubox, but sometimes I give it lip service, so this is one of those times. You might notice I'm starting a lot of the supports off from the same location. That's in order to get them to stack up nicely. And I really want these supports to be thick, because if they're not, they're going to fall over, have some issues. So it is very possible that every single one of these hair strands is going to need a small support, but I'm not going to worry about that for now. Instead, I'm going to realize that it has once again changed my upper diameter to 0.2, so this is going to fail on a lot of people's machines. Oh my. Why do you keep doing this to me, game? By game, I mean program. Okay, I can't help but notice these weird little fins right here are probably going to require a couple of light supports. Probably have those coming down from a fair amount lower than that. Always make sure you clean up your weird connections mess. Okay. And I'm going to need to do under her arm here. And that's going to be an important part, because that is probably one of the biggest points of failure that I see on this model. And I'm going to do it essentially all in heavy supports because, well, why not, essentially? Now, do I like that angle? Will that angle... Yeah, that angle will kind of prevent it from collapsing on itself. And the model itself will support it upwards, so really we're just trying to fight gravity here. And this is where things are going to get a bit weird, because I'm going to use supports off of this point right here in order to kind of get in here, but I'm probably going to need to go from the other side in order to get further in and to get the actual hands. It already doesn't like me moving that support. I don't entirely see why, but that's all right. Yeah, the actual fingers are going to need to be supported from this side. And as such, I'll just add one heavy support right there. It won't cause any damage, and it will probably make the model a bit more stable, especially printing up to this hand. Actually, it's going to require a bracing support as well. So that support isn't actually supporting any upwards or downwards momentum. It is actually just keeping the hand from falling over. Yeah, this whole thing with Chitubox changing my settings continuously is pretty new, and I am not overly fond of it, if I'm being very honest with you. So that's enough supports for that arm to print. But I really, really need to get up into that hand. So I'm going to need a whole new support pillar. And new fantastic point of view. No one to tell us no or where to go. Or that we're only dreaming. So that angle's a bit steep, but it's a heavy support. It will probably print. Let's think in circles a bit. I'm using a lot of heavies here because this model's just a lot bigger than it looks. I wasn't expecting her to be quite so giant. And this one's actually going to be her bracing support, so that's actually going to give this entire structure quite a bit more strength, having that behind it. So this structure is so tall that I might even do another one. Yeah. So you see how stable that structure is going to be? I've essentially built my own custom support. And then off of that, if I would like, I can start getting a few little things onto that hand. And I would like to get a few little things onto that hand. Notice that the crazy support structure I built is actually helping me support the supports that I'm putting on now. Should I still be using heavies? The answer's a solid maybe. I'll tell you what. Now, I'm going to need a couple of lights in there. And by a couple, I mean quite a few, really. Maybe this is actually the best angle to see these fingers at and to get the supports in. Okay. So use the supports you already have available in order to make these a bit more strong and stable. Because you know what they say, strong and stable wins the race. Gonna move that in there. But keep this visible so I can move it down and get it rolling through there. There we go, fingertip 2. Take down the contact depth. Three, 4. Now I'm kind of back in my flow because I actually have an angle I can deal with here. Now the inside of the hand is also has some islands on it that I'm noticing. Again, I might have to catch a lot of these with the validator, which is going to take a long time because it's quite a large file to validate, really. But maybe surprisingly few files to validate. She's licking her finger. There is an island on that, and in order to get to that thumb, I'm going to have to come in through the front, which means I'm going to have to build a brand new structure. Oh, okay. So, light support here. Give it some stability by attaching it to something else. Let's just attach that up there for now. Make it tall. Make sure it hasn't gone through anything. Oh my. Now I've lost track of where I need to put this. Here we are. Now, will that succeed? Probably. Do I like probably? No. So let's turn it into a curve, because why not? This is a stabilizer. And you know, let's actually do a second stabilizer. And there we go. So that's not actually going to bond to anything, which is nice. Then let's do a third and final support here, and then I'll just move it in here and give it some extra weight at the bottom. Perfect. Now the tongue's going to be a bit tough to get to. I might have to make something from the front of her in order to get it. Ooh, good angle. Look at that. So I put that there just to indicate where I need a support since I saw the little protrusion. Because this is right now something very ugly that we don't want. But what I can do, now that I have it in my line of sight, is I can actually just put a light support there and throw it all the way up here. Then, oh, undo that. Okay, what are you doing? You are actually pretty good right there, I think. Still have nothing bonding to the actual model? No, not really. So now for that tongue. Let's see if I can get a close-up view of that tongue again. Because that is 1000% going to need something. And it might have to be something that goes through her back. I hate that, but unless I can get some good vision on one of these. So I did get some good vision on one of those. But now I have to check a couple of things. I have to check to make sure this isn't going through any geometry, which it's not. I can move it back a bit. Now, what I really don't like about this model is these fucking... Oh, excuse my language. These fangs. Those are islands. I'm going to have to support them with straight sideways supports, though. And clean up your mess. That's what my mother always told me, and I never did. Well, that's pretty straight support, but you can support things straight from the side. It's always important to remember that. I'm actually going to turn down the upper diameter a bit, and I'm also going to turn down the contact depth, get a very precise thing here. And whenever I turn down the upper diameter from 0.3, I always try to then support the support. This one is going through another support, but let's add one more just in case, because that really does thin out the actual branch there. Do I need to get all those teeth, or will just the 2 teeth be enough, is the real question here. She will need to have her chin done. It appears as though I will need everything but her molars. Fun. Very fun. Thank you, Daniel. Okay. I always thank Daniel for his fun supports. In all honesty, this one wouldn't be such a problem if it wasn't so tall. And it is tall for days. That will not bond to anything, but is it actually supporting something important? And I'm going to be getting lots of supports going into this mouth, so... And they all have to come in sideways because I really don't have another way of getting them in there. I guess that's why this model was split to begin with, but what's the point of being a pro supporter if you can't do crazy things, right? Again, take the upper diameter down, maybe even take it down more. And you know what? Gonna have lots of things going in this area. Let's turn that upper diameter down as well. In all honesty, I might have to print this on my good resin. It might not print on my worse resin. Contact depth, turn it low. And there we go. Next up. There we go, get that in there. This might actually be a time that it would be worth changing your defaults in order to get these in. But I don't feel like it, so let's take 2 off of that. And then take the contact depth down again. These aren't carrying any weight. Contact depth is not important. Important to keep in mind how unimportant contact depth is. Let's raise this so I can actually get a bit of a custom support going on. Yeah, kind of like that. That'll actually have a lot of strength to it. Then I just need to edit this. Once again, kill that upper diameter. Bring it, no, kill that contact depth. Bring it to just the right place. Then her molars should build up and out if I am very, very lucky. This is why I test print everything. Sometimes I go absolute madness mode. And I think this time I have gone absolutely madness mode, just like with the Mantis on this month's release. Can I say I like a weird support challenge. Oh, it once again changed my angle to 55. And then I have to make sure I change it back when I'm actually in the ad, or else it won't change back. Like, either stop changing my settings or allow me to change them back from literally anywhere. That's all I have. It's all I ask of you. Why am I clipping? That's not good. That was audio clipping if I ever did hear it. I'm glad I actually came in on this angle because I had completely missed this horn, for lack of a better word. I almost feel like printing this in low resolution so I can get out to you guys right away whether this worked or not. Because this is going to be, madness? Yeah, madness is the right word. My go-to resin, I haven't been testing it recently because I've been testing for other people. My go-to resin is a mix of mostly Siraya Tech ABS-like. And then I just top off the bottle with Siraya Blue because I'm too poor to afford more blue than that. And while blue is great, it's actually a bit brittle, so you don't actually want to use too much of it unless you have a flexi resin in with it. If I had unlimited money and anything would ship, I would probably go with some Siraya Tenacious, some Siraya Blue, and some Siraya ABS-like, then Cure in Water. Oh my god, I can't zoom out because... So I've been having... you haven't been watching... I'm not sure how long you've been watching, but I have been having troubles with this model because I can't actually zoom out. And Chitubox keeps changing my settings, so I'm kind of unsure about all these supports, which are supposed to be heavy, but they're also just supposed to keep her held up. So I'm not entirely certain how well they're going to do that. But I really don't want to go and replace them all with heavier supports. She should just be leaning on them theoretically, so it shouldn't matter. Okay, so I am going to need a couple of light supports on that. Probably with reduced tips if I had to guess. It has once again changed my settings to 63. Make sure you change back to add before you change it back to 5. And then be suspicious that it has changed the rest of your default settings, which it has. You know what, I'm actually going to change this permanently to 0.1. Makes it easier to actually place the supports. I mean, it will give you more accuracy in placement. And then you can always increase the depth later if you need to. Don't need contact depth on those. The model is solid. As long as it is going into a solid object, the contact depth is infinite essentially. So that is contact depth is a 3D printing myth. Now, what has happened to my upper diameter? Quite a bit. Okay. Upper diameter, I do standard at 3. Let's erase this because... But like I said, Chitubox keeps changing my support settings today. Like... It did it again! Why would you change back? Okay, add supports. upper diameter 0.3, contact depth 0.1, contact diameter 0.2. We all good here, Chitubox? Yeah. I'm going to have to decrease the contact upper diameter here just to make sure I don't ruin any of that detail, because there is a 2-tiered system on each of those. So I'm going to need 3 more of these. Yeah. If you want an example of why I have such low contact depth, it's because if you watch me place these supports, they place quite easily. But if I were to turn the contact depth up to, let's say, 0.3, which is more standard, the contact or the actual support itself keeps snapping around because it keeps trying to connect to something inside the model itself. So you can always turn it up after, but if you turn it down to 0.2, look at how smooth this moves to anything you want it to hit. It's a very, very useful trick. I recommend it. Then increase the contact depth if you really feel like it. Decrease the upper diameter on all 3 of these by 0.1. They should succeed simply because of liquid tension. Like, they should actually hold these together, and they should also clean up really nicely. Yeah, navigating around this model has been super difficult because it just really, really doesn't like to snap to any location, or it really doesn't like how tall the model is, I should say. Should actually be doing these from slightly lower, like right here, to prevent any scarring. Yeah, that'll do for that. Then I'll add that there. I do a lot to reduce scarring on these models. Like, my ideal is literally no scarring at all, and I spend a lot of time fiddling with each individual support in order to manage that. I suck at cleanup. I am really, really bad at cleanup. I would prefer to have to print this 2 times at 20 hours and not clean it up than to since these models are eventually going to be for sale, I have to make sure they work, so I do have to test them on several resins. And I would rather just see where it fails and print it again than have to clean up once. That won't actually leave scarring even if I don't reduce the tip. But some of these are pretty thin, so I'm going to go ahead and do my usual trick of throwing some supports in that are nice and tall and get them in there, and that will stabilize those nicely. And get a couple of those in here too. Move one in, move one in there. There we go. So now these supports are nice and strong. They'll have lots of tension holding them up. Again, she's just leaning on them, so it doesn't matter that they are that big, or at least that's what I'm hoping, that's what I'm counting on. So her feet should take the supports up to about here, and then it would fail because of the weight. So that's why I have these here for it to lean on, for it to carry the weight, and that's why they're actually so close to the model. And then that's why these are at such a high angle in comparison. Those aren't islands. That might be an island. Now let me get a different angle on it. Okay, no different angle on it allowed. That's all right. I think that is an island, though. Yes, it is. Okay. Now, and look at how much scarring that would cause. Look at that. Nobody wants that. So let's go ahead and edit the top here. Reduce the upper diameter a tiny bit. And actually, let's move it in and down so it's flush against that. Yeah. There we go. I'm very nervous about this model. This is maybe the hardest model I've ever supported because it just... Like, each of these hair strands don't only need to be supported, they then need to be braced. And I can't zoom in on them and my eyes are really bad. Okay, it didn't let me make my point there by allowing me to zoom in immediately. That's actually pretty good, isn't it? Does it get the very tip of the support? Not really. So, do this trick again, do this trick again. Usually 0.2 will print on most people's printers, as long as their settings are even moderately dialed. So let's raise that, throw it in here. So, do you see the main problem with this support? Did you watch my tutorial video a bit earlier? If so, you'll probably see the issue with this support. Okay, in case you haven't guessed yet, all the weight is pulling up. And this is going straight in this direction. Resin is not that strong. It will pull the support up and break it, even with such a small thing. So let's take a secondary support, brace it from the other side. Now we have lots and lots of strength in order to keep it. I'm not creating any scarring. As far as I can tell, I haven't intersected the model in any way. I wonder if I should support a crotch. Yes? Officially speaking, it should print. But I don't have that many supports down in this area. I have already gone onto their forums and recommended a support transparency setting and an autosave in case of crashes, because speaking of crashes, save project. Probably not as Blade Master 3. Oh yeah, if you slice, it then saves the project properly. Save project, there. Why are you doing this? Yeah. So that's probably the hardest and most advanced tip I currently have to give. Thinking about the physics of every situation is quite hard, but it's really, really a game changer. Because it makes your supports go from just supports everywhere to the supports that you saw on maybe the Jinn, where I was very subtle with the supports, but they'll still work because the physics of the model itself actually holds the model up. So what am I doing here? Adding braces. That's it. In places that they won't show. Yeah. Do I need to hold any more weight anywhere? I feel like I have enough weight. Were you here in time to see me try to deal with her fangs? My God, and her hand? Actual impossibility. It was... This is the model that I am least confident will print that I've ever made. But I'd still give it a solid 80% chance of succeeding. Maybe a 30% chance of having some... Oh, thank you! I was mentioning the chin earlier, too. Might through her hair for it, but that's no big deal. In case you haven't seen me do it, here's how you go straight through the hair easily. Make sure the support is fairly close to the model, especially if you are selling the support to other people and they are not good with crazy support settings. Change the lower diameter to be 0.35. Attach it to just whatever support you can see on this side. Hope that it doesn't actually show on that side. Then find a good angle to see the chin at. Perfect angle. And then the support can go right in here. That's plenty. Yeah, this is going to be an interesting one. This is a very interesting one. When I was talking about the physics of a model, I wasn't expecting to accidentally pick such a perfect model to discuss physics about. And I think I will actually give her a crotch support. It's gonna look real awkward, but you know, we're not in it for how the supports look. Okay, maybe I'm slightly in it for how the supports look, but I'm not entirely in it for how the supports look. So this, again, is very tall. It's going to need a brace. Get that brace directly behind it. Get it as far up the model as you can. These types of supports generally succeed, but why take a risk with them, right? Just make them thick. And this is a way of custom thickening a support in only one direction. Normally when you thicken a support, it thickens it all around. So all you're really doing is adjusting the support settings. But you're adjusting them in such a way that it only adjusts in a direction while still providing all the strength of a heavy support. So now I'm noticing it's not islands. Actually, it is so not islands that I'm not going to bother supporting them. These will all print. The Photon is surprisingly good with islands. And in all honesty, it might be time to slice it and validate it. Also, thanks for keeping me company, Jeff. I appreciate having somebody around for this. I'm hoping to do more of these streams in the future to kind of show people my process. Can't do it on the models that are being released until they've actually been previewed. Not to mention, I don't have them yet because literally the month just started. You might notice I conglomerated my supports much less than usual because of how tall this model is. It needs a lot of strength. I really don't like that Chitu box screwed up my supports at the beginning because I really would like these to be a bit more structural. And one of the issues with my support method is that sometimes supports fuse in a weird way. So like if I were to try to delete this, it would actually pick a bunch of other supports. No, okay, that's a bad example. Sometimes it would pick about 100 supports to try to delete. I'm not going to delete those though. Oh. Yeah, I usually listen to music, which I'm listening to right now, or an audiobook. Audiobook is prime, so are podcasts, but I've always been more of an audiobook guy than a podcast guy. And see, these all actually will print. They're just slight overhangs as well. That might be an island, but I'll leave that up to the validator. Let's give it a slice. That is going to take a while because I'm slicing at 0.2. Yeah, I like to keep them considering how many supports are on this thing, these are pretty tight supports. But these are going to need a bunch of strength just to reach up this high without bending or without any forces acting on them. And especially these going up here at angles are going to need a fair amount of strength as well. So instead of doing my usual single pillars, I've done lines all over the place of pillars. There's another method I'd actually like to show off, maybe after I'm done this model, that I haven't quite decided what to name it yet. Something along the 8 pillars method. And in that method, you essentially take 8 big pillars and support... I'm not sure how to actually describe this in words. You essentially drag supports around the entire model, and it leaves 8 nice big blank spaces that you can get vision through. And then all the supports for the entire model you make off of those 8 supports. It always ends up getting messy in the end, but it helps out quite a bit for a fair amount of the process and is very, very much worth it. Couldn't really do the 8 pillar method here. Not to mention Titanforge, because they are running a Prusa, wants me to tilt my models a bit further back than I would normally like. I tend to prefer a 10 to 20% tilt, but Prusa apparently has an easier time with faces if they're more tilted. So we compromised at a 30%. Oh, that is going through the finger. Is that easy enough to clean, or am I going to have to change that? I'm going to have to change that. Oh. I don't like that at all. And I can only change it once it finishes slicing because She is indeed solid. I would never hollow anything this thin because the walls would just get, like, it would be far too delicate. Also, hollowing it... So I have, a habit of becoming obsessed at being good at things. So I spent, like, nearly a month, or nearly 3 months, really, supporting models every hour of every day for a long time, sometimes not even sleeping. But I haven't actually done that with hollowing yet. So I'm going to take a day or two to perfect, or to near perfect hollowing. Sounds a bit like a brag, but it's ridiculously unhealthy. I've finished university courses in like 2 days and then burnt out and not done the rest of them. That's always my issue. The burnout is real. Very slowly going through university for software engineering. Okay, so she is almost sliced. Yeah. Whoa, didn't want to drag that around. So, I'll plan to print her on my crazy resin, my go-to resin. The problem with my go-to resin is it comes out with fantastic quality prints, but it is an 18-second exposure. I'm not sure how much the blue adds to that, because blue is like a 22, 24-second exposure. So Siraya ABS must be a 16-second, 15-second. Lord of Lust Hole. Okay, so now that I've sliced it, it will actually save the project to the right file name. And then I'll also save the STL, because I'll always be saving. ABS. It's amazing how many things ABS works for as an abbreviation. It's one of the most amazing abbreviations on the planet. I prefer to not eat the quality loss. If people want to hollow my models after I've done them, they can do that. But unless I'm doing something like the Lord of, now what was he called now? The big fat guy. Oh yeah, huge print times. I'm used to 17 to 28 hour print times. But it's really, really worth it for the higher quality resins. They get much, much better resolution. They're much more reliable. There are some Rapid resins that are also high quality. Apparently, some people swear by Siraya Rapid mixed with a tiny bit of Siraya Tenacious. And you don't really need much, like 10% Siraya Tenacious. And Siraya Rapid is also a very cheap resin comparatively. So what do you think about this finger? To me, it looks like you could fairly easily take a craft knife and just cut it off on both ends. It might not be too bad that it's actually going through that nail, because it's actually providing that nail with the support that it needs. Yeah. Again, recently I haven't been testing at that level because I've been testing Elegoo Green at 10 seconds, and I've been having great success with that. But I find the prints to come out much too brittle. I think next... I have never tried the whole Siraya Rapid plus Tenacious, but I think that's going to be my next experiment next time I have some money to drop on resins. That's kind of what I thought. Like, it's actually maybe kind of a helpful mistake. I might get some islands in here, but they'll probably be like 1 pixel or 2 pixels, and they'll easily just bond to the next layer, so I'm not too worried about that. Now for the guessing game. How many supports do you think I missed? Once I correct, I'm going to go with 70 on this one. It is a large model, but it is one of their newer models, so it isn't made for processes other than other than 3D printing. My second screen's on a table way over in the distance, and the validator always starts on my second screen. Yeah, I don't have low latency mode available, I think. Yeah. If I was streaming on my main channel, I would have all my settings available and I could do low latency mode and all that jazz. You bet 80? I'm betting 68, but it could be up to like 120. Oh god, the file's too big. It's loading the file endlessly. Ooh, don't go to my personal stuff. Here, go to that. And while this is, well, hopefully the validator eventually loads the file. Because I would hate to have to wing this one. Well, while it loads the file, I'm actually going to start on another model. Because it is faster that way. Oh, God. And actually go back to YouTube. Live streaming, there we go. The thing is, I got sick for about 5 years with that previous channel, so it kind of died out. I still have a small community of loyalists who show up for my gaming streams, but it's mostly just a social group now. Okay, so let's open up... What should we open up? Kind of at the Demonic Kingdom now. Let's tackle something easy now that I've tackled something hard. Now that the file's failing to load up, I'm actually going to go ahead and guess that I have 140 islands. I'm changing my guess because of the size of the file. So, these guys are all one piece. Let's just get a couple of these done. Bang them out real quick. Oh, they're going to be no issue at all. Look at that. 60 degrees. Doesn't really matter how many supports you put on the lower level. So, I just pepper it. And most of this could probably actually be done with light support. So I'm going to show you the pillar technique now. I've been trying to refine it. It's not perfect yet. But, so what you do is you create a single support, pull it outwards, doesn't matter what it's attached to, and then drag it up to a high point, the highest island you can find. Yeah, I could drag it up to there. You know, I will drag it up to there. Then make this considerably taller. There we go. Then, add a support. Drag it over here. Add a support. Drag it over here. Raise it. Add a support. Drag it over here. Raise it. Add a support. Completely screw up everything. Drag it over here. Raise it. Add a support. Drag it over here. Yeah, you get the process. Yeah, something like the pillars of support method, but less lame than that, hopefully, is what I'm going to call it when I finally perfect it and create a tutorial for it. Oh, and I have made this slightly too big. I can't see the chat. And this can come out a tiny bit more since this model's a bit wider. Okay. Now the first thing you want to do is assign all these supports that you just made. Yep, just fence it off. In all honesty, the fencing method would be a pretty good name for it. Let's support this a bit lower down. And actually, I already have a second support I want to put on. Anchor this at 2 points. Move it in. This can maybe go right here. This guy can support the tongue a bit. In all honesty, I should probably be using a lot of these to support these teeth. Okay, so you see what I mean? That was a bit hard to place. It won't snap to the place, but if I change the contact depth to 0.1, then it will just very easily go right where it belongs. And remember, the model is solid. The contact depth doesn't actually matter at all. That is the nice thing about contact depth. All it does is actually increase your support tip. That's its only purpose, contact depth. As you see when I zoom it up, it just goes deeper and deeper, but 0.2 will actually print, and it will print for quite a long time, so you don't actually need it that deep. So move it to 0.1, then you can just get the tip of that fang. Don't really have much to do with this, so another fang it is. This one actually snapped really nicely onto the tooth, so that can just stay where it is. Oh, this is going to take me like minutes. I love it. Okay, so then I need a support there. Can go right there, won't bond to anything from there. Need a support there. I'm using mediums here. Should probably have used lights for those teeth, but those teeth are pretty big, so it doesn't really matter. I'm gonna need one more support on this side to get this little guy here. And this is completely opposite of common knowledge because I'm actually supporting top to bottom. I normally do actually support bottom to top even using this method. It's just that I see a lot of very clear supports that I can make without having to change my angles too much. So here's where things get a bit messy. That guy, very hard to get to. Also doesn't officially need a support. Actually, it doesn't need a support at all, so I'm not going to do it. So never mind what I was about to say. Okay. I'm gonna need a couple of further in supports because there's a couple of little guys in there and I wouldn't trust that angle as far as I could throw it, and throwing angles is not even a thing, so clearly I don't trust it much. Got a couple of those. Throw one of these in here for good measure, but this one can actually come down quite a bit and out quite a bit. Be a part of the pillar community. The fence community. Oh, no, absolutely not. This is, well, not in anything I've seen so far. I used some curves in the previous model, but you know, let's bring this even lower. Save resin. Bring it out. This only needs a little bit of help, so I do see that support needed right there. This doesn't... Oh, it does have an island. Look at that. That's actually going to require a light. Coming in from the side a bit. Bit of an angle, won't bond to anything, and if I'm being very honest with you, I'd feel more comfortable if this had an anchor point. The anchor point can be pretty low and will be part of the fence. Now, here's where things are getting a bit complicated. I don't quite know what's going on there, but it looks like there's actually no islands other than that and that. That's not an island, that'll print easily. And those islands would be easiest to support from, well, actually they'd be pretty easy to support from this pillar, so let's do it from that pillar, since that's the whole point of this method, right? or this possible method. It's a method it's more of a theory than a method. Let's put it that way. But it's worked, like the support removal on people I've done like this has been quite easy. The only issue is they actually take up a fair amount of space on the actual plate. But a lot of the Titan Forge models are so big anyways that you don't want to overcrowd the plate, or else you can't really validate them. Yeah, like these don't need curves. These are fine. Okay, you know what? It is kind of annoying me that I don't have a fence post right here. So let's go ahead and make one of those. Raise it up, move it forward. Save a bit of resin. I get by with a little resin from my friends. I get high with a little resin from my friends. Because I'm in Canada with a little resin from my friends. Yeah, we're allowed. It's kind of funny though. Marijuana workers went from being marijuana went from being illegal in 2018 to being considered an essential service in 2020. I couldn't help but find that at least moderately hilarious. See if I missed anything down low. That'll print easily. There we go. Missed one guy. You see how much space this gives you to actually see what's going on? That's kind of what I like about the method so far. It's just very easy to tell exactly, like it doesn't get crowded as fast. This is going to require a few supports because this is a long arm. I always worry about long things in general. Especially the long man from the Long Long Man commercials. Fantastic set of Japanese ads. I highly recommend watching them if you ever have a chance. Oh, okay. Undo that. Gotta love the addition of an undo function. Could do without the crashes, though. Has my file loaded yet? I'm gonna have to wing it. Oh, no. Oh. I'll leave it up for longer, but generally if it stays loading file this long, it's gonna crash. I don't like that much, so let's just be nice here and throw a support in. Yeah. This method gives you a ton of space to work in. And support removal. Yep, there. Yep, it's just done. Well, let's try a much easier one. Okay, so I'm gonna have to take a second look at this model and very carefully go through it with a fine comb looking for islands, especially because I'm now printing at 0.2 resolution, or 0.02 resolution. 0.02 layer height, I guess, is the proper terminology, but I always consider it the resolution of the machine, even though that's not quite proper. But to be fair, I winged it on most of the Griffin, and that worked out. Hey, look at that. That big glaring part in need of support. You know what? None of that. None of that. Missed a couple of things. Now, I forgot a golden rule here, and that golden rule is start from the furthest and work your way to the nearest, so you don't clog up your lines of sight. And then just one more raid in there. I said raid. please. Please. Okay. Let's do this again. Nope. I'm guessing 5 errors. This guy was so easy that I just don't even see what could go wrong. I'm probably massively off. I usually slightly underestimate. The other day I lost 4 hours of work from 2 crashes. One model that had 100 errors. It was one of those models that was never actually meant for 3D printing. You can always use the validator to actually change up the exposure times if you're test printing these. They look like tiny lasers firing at the creature. Yeah, I sent this to a relative of mine. They sent me back a picture of an anime character being stabbed by like 1,000 swords, and I was like, yeah, it seems accurate. You might as well take the slicing time and the file writing time to kind of like go over with a fine comb. Like that actually needs a support. That's one of my 6. That's attached to the model. This one was actually clearly made with 3D printing in mind. Okay, let's go ahead and fix that one thing before I even validate. There we go. Easily enough done. Yeah, some files are literally just too big to validate. Maybe with a more powerful computer I could do it, but I actually already have a pretty powerful computer trying to see my mouse on that screen way over there. I really should get my second monitor set up in my actual office, but I have one monitor in my office, which is my couch with the TV, and one monitor in my painting desk. And right now I have my painting lamp on, which is causing a lot of glare off my painting desk screen. 109. A lot of them seem to be 1 pixel errors though. I always close this because it seems to work out a bit faster when you do that. And now it's time for the BS job. Whew, okay. Okay, I should probably at least start where the model starts, right? There we go. Okay. Fortunately, this model is thin. That is actually going to be very, very helpful in assessing whether or not parts need supports. Oh, that's 2 supports. I thought I was actually not supporting a part of the model there. Perfect. Yes, yes. So this is what you have to do when things go wrong. I'd almost rather leave that for the validator. I mean, like, that'll bond easily to anything if I don't catch it, but for the sake of example, it'll bond to everything next to it is what I'm talking about. If I wanted to support that, I could always decrease that, then decrease this by 2, and that becomes nice and thin. But then that might not succeed on some people's printers. Ooh, okay. So I'm going to add another support to it, and then I'm going to think in curves a bit. There we go, give it some upward strength. I actually have 3 monitors. One's not even plugged in because I used it for a guest like a month ago and just never bothered to plug it in again. You can see from the channel, I used to be a gaming YouTuber. Multiple monitors was just kind of the standard. So this is what I mean by this model. This is why I didn't think I would have that many errors in this model, because so much of this is just a smooth transition upwards. Like, these aren't actually supporting anything, they're literally just holding it upright. Now I think the legs are going to be entirely safe. Oh! I was wrong. Now, do I have somewhere that I can angle this in from, or is this going to require new support? It's going to require new support. That's alright, though. Now, got to build that up and make sure I'm not actually destroying any detail. That'll come off neatly enough. Does this side have the same thing? And if it does, is it an island? Okay, this side has the same thing, but it is not an island. That is also not an island. This is not fudge. Have a cat kneading my belly right now. Like I said, I'm lying down on a couch, as that is my standard office position. Ooh. I'm a pretty big one. I'm glad I got that second pillar going on. Although it's going to have to be pulled slightly more back. In that case, I'll pull this slightly more back too. Then lower it quite a lot. Raise this to where it needs to be. Raise this to where it needs to be. There we go. Easy. Easy money. Very few whammies. Very few. Well, that I don't like at all. So, Chitubox doesn't have this in red. Chitubox should have this in red. That is a lot of unsupported, that's a pretty big overhang. And that's why you never trust the Chitubox red. Oh, and there's another island. Oh, and 10 islands. But now I'm kind of intent on fixing this up. It's pretty much what we expected. In all honesty, I can probably angle that in from here. Make the angle a bit steeper, undo what I just did, move this in with all the rest. This is my, like, I much prefer the photon validator than doing this any day. What's that? Nothing crazy. Okay, I have a second part of the model that I have to start looking at now. That's the buttocks supported, and that is the buttocks unsupported. So let's go ahead and get a heavy support in there. As long as the heavy support's at like a straight angle, it won't scar much. I'll have to adjust that angle from, oh my... There we go. As long as it's touching the very bottom there, that'll actually support it without leaving too much of a scar. See, and now I can see things like how little this is supported. Well, it is supported from two angles. I'd still feel more comfortable if I got a heavy in there. And I can throw that heavy like right in there where it won't be seen. Ow, ow, Noodle. That really hurts. Ow. Noodle's my kitty. One of my kitties. Where did this come from? Is this floating? Or does that have a support? And if it has a support, does it have one support or many supports? It has a single support. Oh no, it has two. Yeah, it could probably use a heavy hanging out right about there. So let's angle one of those guys in there. This way it's supported from 3 angles. Won't get any print failures on that. Thinking in physics, right? I've had to do a lot of adjusting of the tips of these supports in order to avoid scarring. Because that is, look at that scar. That is going to be ugly. Or maybe it will be unnoticeable to some people, but to me it is going to be ugly. Okay, so as I have it, this support is going to do very little. It'll print off the tiniest bit, but the tiniest bit is all I need before I angle in a heavy support. Ooh, sometimes that'll happen. Before I angle in a heavy support from here to take over all the work. If I was feeling really paranoid, I'd put one on from the other side too. Hate it when Chitubox does this thing where it never stops being red. Where one support never stops being red. Ow, 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 Noodle. That hurts a lot. Okay. Okay, Noodle pissed off. And there's a couple little islands right there. Or just one? I got one, but I didn't get the one right next to it. And Chitubox has once again screwed up all my support settings. Always watch out for that. If your supports suddenly start looking different, check all your settings. You might have been using horrible supports for the last hour. Chitubox. Why are you the best worst program? No. Overall, I've actually done a pretty good job here. This is, I infinitely prefer the validator to this going through the layers in this way. I might have to block off my line of sight here, so that kind of sucks. But if I keep it low, I'll never have to go lower than this again, so that should be fine. Yeah. This is the main difference I've noticed between a lot of people who do support work and myself. The fact that I go back over every support that I place and make sure that it's positioned in such a way that it doesn't leave any scar. Yeah, there we go. And it doesn't have to be done. It's actually insanity, but I like doing it, so. It looks like there's an island to there, but I can't really. Oh yeah, there it is. Okay. Things are gonna start to get a bit more tricksy. Yeah, see, this is that whole, like, if I put support down to 0.2, it would have reached that. But since support wasn't at 0.2, it's not going to. Yeah. Unless your model is hollow, there's really almost no reason to have a contact depth of more than 0.2. So that is a good thing to keep in mind. And you can even move it down to 0.1, move it down to 0.02 in order to position it, then move it back up to 0.12. Easy enough. Yeah. This is exactly where I thought I would start having supports that I missed. So I'm not too concerned about this. Okay, this is another one of those move it to 0.2, get my upper diameter down, because that will print. Move it back up to 0.12. Yeah, it goes through a tiny bit, but that shouldn't actually leave a mark. It'll be behind the hair. So back to add, make sure that my settings change back. Now normally when I actually put the tip to 0.2, I then support the rest of the support. And in all honesty, I should be doing that. So let's go ahead and actually do that. There. Now I have a considerably thicker support there. And I also did it with this one and that one. Okay, you know what? I'm not going to change them all. And these are a good angle anyways. That wasn't a support. That built up from there. Had a bit of a moment there where I was like, oh, where'd that come from? What's all this then? Nothing or everything? Yeah, she's a bit too small to put holes in her, if you ask me anyways. Okay, so this is an island, but it's going to need to be supported from pretty much straight on. So no messing with the contact depth here. We want it a bit steep. But I will think in curves. Oops. And get this supported. There we go. Sup, Dustin? How's it been? No problem. Enjoy work, or try to. It's a bit of a weird time to say enjoy work, but... Is that floating? Yeah, that is floating, huh? So let's throw another support in this direction. It can probably be a bit lower. Then let's check out to see how that support functions. These models are rather more of an undertaking than I expected. Usually I allot about an hour model, maybe an hour. Some of the more complicated ones get up to 2 hours. That ogre got up to 4 hours because that ogre was insanity. Cone diameter, there we go. Move it right down. And then take my own advice, make sure that your settings are correct, and then support your support. But not too much, or not in a way that takes too much resin. There we go. I knew this hair was going to be a bit of a problem because this model was never meant to be printed all attached like this. Yeah, I'm starting to get to some of those like little ridges in her hair that are pointing downwards. I might not need to adjust the supports too much for that. Never mind, I have to adjust the supports quite a lot for that. There we go. I might snap off a tiny bit of that, but I think that'll look better than having it just like blotted out. Let's try to make sure it doesn't snap off a bit of that instead. Put that right there. Notice I have almost a solid brick of supports here. That is on purpose and nice, because none of these supports are going to have even a chance in hell at failing. No problem. See you later, Jeff. Well, there goes my company. But that's alright. Okay, is that an island or is it, yeah, that is an island. And I can see it if I look from here, but I can barely reach it. Okay. Now let's make sure I don't actually damage anything. There's another one. Those maniacs, they broke it all? They destroyed it all? I don't know. I don't remember the quote. Okay, you know what? I'll actually be able to get more zoom on her if I move her back this way. Ooh. I'm gonna be silent until I get more chatters, because I don't need to teach anyone anything right now. This is actually gonna have to angle in from this side. Let's go ahead and reduce that. Let's go ahead and reduce that. Have to move this further over this way even. Those are crossing, which is a nice little added bonus. And then I actually want another support from here to go up to this individual point. Okay, give it a bit more width. Then try it. Perfect. Look at that bit of ugliness right there. Like I said, ain't no one want that. Turn that support way down. Position the support. Then turn it back up. Oops. Well, turn this back up at least. Didn't quite get it. Okay, you know, that's just hovering. I'll deal with that. There we go. Throw that in there. It'll be kind of hidden anyways, so I don't really need to worry too hard about it. Now I'm almost certain I missed some supports down in here. Yeah, there's that at the very least. So bring one up to there. It's just a ridge, a fairly solid angle should do it solid. And then the very, very edge of that needs a support. Okay. Get it in there. Get her in. Oh my. So many. You know what? This is a good time to save. Save project. Lord of Last Hole. Yes, please replace it. And save as. Yes. Because near the end, which is where I'm getting, is where I tend to get a lot of crashes in Chitubox. Like I said, I lost 4 hours of work to it the other day and was moderately displeased. I might have sent them a message that just said add an autosave feature, which was a bit aggressive from my usual demeanor. Okay, so I've gotten those. Now things should start to connect. I should get a few supports needed in this little back area. Might need to find a better angle in order to actually get to it, but that's a problem for future me. Future me being me at this exact moment. Now I'm looking at her hair. Okay. No, I'm not looking at her hair. Yes, I was. It's just in the way. So I have to find an angle in here. You'll make life difficult for me, do you not? This might be good enough angle. I think that is actually good enough angle. I have no idea why I speak in fake Russian accent. And you know what? I kind of agree with Chidubox here. Let's get a couple of supports going on just in these little hard to print areas. Perfect. Got that one right there. I'm going to focus just on the back right now. I'll go and do more of the hair a tiny bit later. For now, I just want to get this bridge done because it's pretty important. Yeah, that'll do the trick. Yeah, this is like the slowest method of finding islands. If you can use the validator, it is always a better choice. Now that is also an island, and I'm not sure quite how I'm going to get to it. Okay, apparently a new open world puzzler is free on Epic Games, everybody. Hope you guys are getting those free Epic games. Or, you know, boycotting Epic Games for some misguided reason. And don't you argue with me that it isn't misguided. Epic's competitors are worse than Epic could ever be. Okay, so I think what I need to do is add a support here. And then bring it in here. And pull it through. And then just get through that crack. And yeah. That seemed like a good use of my time. Some of these supports are going to be a tiny bit tough to remove. Let's throw one in there. Up. And this can just be a nice big diagonal to get that little bit of hair right there. Clean up your mess. Make sure it's actually hitting the lowest point of that support. I guess I can also rotate the tray, but I, in all honesty, haven't quite figured out how that helps. I've never properly used it to find an angle on something. I'm sure it can be helpful. I just haven't personally figured it out. So see this right here? Notice there's like no supports for quite a while. That's not good. Let's get a couple in there. Or one in there. Because there are actually supports in there. But let's get one in there anyways, because why not? No one will ever see it. It's on the inside of the model. Is this an island? You know what? Might not be an island. Might be an island. Let's throw that in there. Perfect. I can see it get down in my soul. Now, that looks like it was an island at some point and I just missed it. Yes, indeed I am correct. Turning into a bit of a mess, but that's alright. Prints this size and this complexity tend to get messy, so I'm not too worried about it. I do see that guy right there, and if you see him, I gotta support him, so... In all honesty, a lot of these supports that I'm doing would probably not actually cause any issues anyways. Like, they would probably bond to the nearest layer. But they might also melt or leave residue in your vat, and that would be considerably less ideal. There we go. A lot of these guys, huh? And probably all of them actually need supports. And I've just been missing them. Oh, several things need supports there. Oh my god, okay. Okay, I think I'm going to temporarily change my support settings. If anyone happens to be lurking in chat, please remind me to change them back. Because what I'm going to do is insanity and should not be done by anyone. Okay? Okay. So let's bring this down, and bring this down. Okay. So I'm in the ultralight support territory now. But at least I won't have to be editing all my supports as I place them on this hair, which is starting to become a bit prohibitively time-consuming. Yeah, that's 1000% a island. I actually like that I can attack it from the side here. Stack your supports whenever possible. Although it can cause crashes in T2 box, it is the most efficient thing to do. Yeah, see, it's stopping me from having to do all these supports over and over and over again. There's another one in there. Oh my god. That one's gonna have to angle in from here, I'm afraid. Those two statements are unrelated. I am just generally afraid. And I'm gonna have to angle it in from over there. Okay, now that I've worked on some hair. So the scary thing is, if for anyone who has just joined or who's skipping through the video, I can't validate this. The file is too big, so I'm having to go through and find each individual island by hand, which is proving to be a wee bit difficult. Doable, but difficult. Now, I never changed my supports back, and that's because I am dumb. So let's go ahead and do those. Those two supports should work out. They're pretty light. So let's bring this back up to 12, back up to 3, back up to 0.85. And then keep on going. Not for very long, though, because this model is madness, apparently. Madness incarnate. Well, that's kind of ugly. Let's go ahead and poo. Okay, well, that's a bit less ugly at least. So, issue. There is no support beam over here in order to support that area. Solution. Create a support beam in this area to support that area. Perfect. Genius. Genius. I have never seen such genius in a man. You know what? There's a bit of like hard printing going on over there. Let's throw a light support in just to help it out a bit. I can't wait to post this one on the Facebook page and ask if it's going to print. I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of no's. Meaning that I'm going to have a big nose, which I do because I'm like French Roman and my nose is out of control. So, figured I'd just share that with the audience while I'm here. Now I see a bit of problem. Problem is hidden support. How do I get support up there? I think what I do is I do not care about looks too much. Instead, I move pillar here and support in like this. Raise it more. Make sure you are not intersecting with anything, but you are intersecting with lots of things. I'm gonna have to check that support from different angles. It won't let me move it, but I have the feeling it's actually pretty good. Let's actually highlight the support segment of that. Okay, so it is passing through a bit of hair here. So let's go ahead and reduce its lower diameter. Unfortunately, that did not help. So instead, I'm going to zoom out a lot. Then Control Z this until it doesn't exist and try again. And occasionally this will happen. You'll just get a floating support. You can just erase that. Maybe what I actually want to do is throw a support down in here, and then just angle it up that way. Turn down the support pillar diameter a bit. And then be done with it. Yeah, that seems like a good one. Maybe lower it a bit too to prevent any bonding to there. That will definitely print. That will definitely not. Having to go through one layer at a time. Now, I'd really like to preserve the spikiness on this bit if possible, so I'm going to go ahead and do my thing, if you know what I mean. Okay, move this down a bit. Now that support's going to need some supports on a lot of people's printers because it's just a bit underdone. So let's go ahead and move this here, move this up, and start supporting my supports. There we go. That one looks like it's just going to work nicely. Yeah, that one's just a good support. I like that. Don't have to individually correct each support, which is an unusual occurrence for this model. Almost every support is custom. Oh my god. Okay. How long have I been going? 3 hours? Ooh, okay. Now I stopped here because I'm pretty sure I saw an island. Oh, there's one. This is another one of those, huh? You know I want to, I really, really want to do this. Get it really nicely positioned. Click on the wrong thing. Bring Chitubox back up. Oops, that's the validator. Click on nothing. Make sure you don't click on something. Okay. Back to adding supports. Oh. Got another one, huh? Okay, let's just get that right on the corner. And then let's start thinking in curves. Let's get a bit of extra strength on those, make them a bit less likely to fail at any point. And one more. Right now I'm listening to the No Pants Dance by Tupperware Remix Party, for those of you who are curious. And... ooh. That's no good. How did I fail this so hard? I can kind of see how I failed that so hard. I would really like to get this a tiny bit more. Okay, use my general technique, turn it down to 0.2, get it right on the corner, turn it back up to 0.1. Then throw a second support in, right there. That one doesn't need it as much, so it's just going to stay where it is. Was that already supported? Of course it wasn't, and neither was that, so let's get those two done right away. And let's start with this one because it's slightly easier to reach. Move it up. Trying to get down, but I'm moving up. Something about a crab bucket. And then this one's actually going to have to angle in from a completely different location, or else it will cause some issues. So I need to get a good line of sight on it from over here, which is proving to be a wee bit difficult. You know what I can do? I can take this, put it here, move it in. There we go. Now I have a nice, easy support to work with. And this is actually passing through a support, so I don't actually mind decreasing its width much. You as well decrease your width, your upper diameter, I should say. Now they're not passing through each other, so I gotta start thinking in curves again. And then the other one is right here. That is actually still passing through things, so I don't need to think in curves. Perfect. This hair, though. Am I right? Okay, surprisingly large errorless segment. Probably because I'm getting to the face now and to the horns, which I did a pretty good job of. I'll check these out a bit more carefully in the future. Is that a floating island? That is an island, okay. I might need to support every spike individually. Yeah. Okay, so I'm really thinking about how to best approach this. I don't think I can deal with customizing every support anymore. So, oops, it can. Okay, some weird stuff can happen when you stack your supports like I do. That is one of the weird things. It doesn't matter if you just cover it up a bit. Okay. So then add. I'm going to add pillars that are 0.2, 0.1, 0.2. And then I'm going to attach them one at a time. I'm going to do this kind of speedily because now I notice exactly what needs to be supported. I can kind of speed up a bit. Just keep bringing these up as I go. Have the feeling I have accidentally curved the model on the plate, and by that I mean tilted the plate. I have indeed. So that's hold right click and then scroll wheel to get it back to normal. Unless you like it that way for some reason, in which case, you know, go nuts, I guess. And this is feeling like a crash, so I'm actually going to save right now. If it starts lagging, just save. It is a very, very good rule for T2Box. Okay. So. Now, this I'm going to deal with very slightly differently. What I'm going to do is, well, first of all, I'm going to add one, put it right where it belongs. Then I'm going to add 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Make sure they're actually in the right place. There we go. Move it up, move it in, move it up, move it in, move it up, move it in, rinse and repeat. Don't have that many of them to do. I'm glad I got my music for this, and in all honesty, I'm glad I'm streaming it, even though there is currently, as far as I'm aware, no one watching. I guess I could go look at my concurrent viewers. But who looks at their concurrent viewers? Lame people, that's who. Oh, okay. I just saw something change in my settings. Hoping it's nothing too serious. Interesting, I only actually needed 2 here, so let's actually just support that a bit. Don't waste the spare support that I put down. So I'll need to do this on this side too for all these, but I'm getting there. Two and 3, I guess. This one doesn't quite have to go as high in that case. I'm actually on the 2 support tier now instead of the 3. We've outgrown 2 supports. And we might have outgrown supporting these in general. This might actually build. Actually, it looks like it will, so I'm going to go ahead and move over here. Put one of those in there. Not the most entertaining type of stream of all time, but maybe relaxing for some people, I don't know. This would have been much easier if I had split up the pieces. This hair is madness. Should trust Daniel. Should trust Daniel when he's like, hey, I'm going to split these up. And not spend 4 hours supporting something that I don't have to. But would I really be me then? The answer is no. No, I would not be me. Got a couple little supports to put on the little corners there. A couple of cute little supports. Don't need anything more than an ultralight because it's gonna support itself pretty soon. And you know what? Let's give this thing a tiny bit more help. I didn't put anything. Okay. Every once in a while, if you have something selected and you change from add to, or from edit to add, it just throws the thing right into the ground. I do notice it changed my contact depth. Yeah. If you see something glitch out in Chi2Box, assume that something else has also glitched out. It's a good rule of thumb for Chi2Box. Just gonna double up on these supports, anchor them from 2 points, like that thinking and wait support or video said. And then I'm done. Okay. Well, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please do like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. Recommend it to your friends if they're in need of support help, because that's what this is. I'll show you the finished product if it prints. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.